Hi everyone, so in this video I am going to show you how you can create a Parse server project. So we are going to create an Android project that is connected to the Parse server, and then we are going to learn how to implement the email verification by using the Parse server. So first and foremost, we need to create an Android Studio project. So I'm gonna choose the empty activity, next, and so you already know about this process. So I'm just gonna choose a name for my project. So I'm gonna say Parse email verification. And then I am going to, so the minimum API level, I chose API 16. So finish. So as you may already know, we need to create a new app in the back4app.com. So if you don't know anything about the back4app.com, it's a backend service for a Parse server. So you just need to enter this URL, back4app.com, inside the search bar of your website, of your web browser actually. And then you will be guided to the sign up page. So you need to sign up. And if you already have an account, you need to log in to this website, and then you will be able to create a new app. So I'm gonna create new app here, and then here it's gonna ask me to enter a name for my app. So my app is going to be email verification, and then click on create. So we just need to wait until it's gonna perform these operations behind the scenes. Database, application layer, auto scaling, auto backup, security. So that's why I love the Back4App service, because it's gonna do everything for you. It's gonna do all the structure for you, and it's gonna give you the database ready, and we can work on it. So this is our Parse server. So now it's time to go to the next step. Okay, so now that you have created the Parse application, now it's time to go ahead and add the Parse SDK to our Android project. So here, open the Android view at the left. So if you don't know how to open the Android view, the shortcut for Mac is Command 1. But the shortcut for the Windows is Alt 1. So if you don't know about these shortcuts, at the top menu, at the top bar, click on View, Tool, Windows. So here you can see the shortcuts. So we need to open the project view and make sure that here it says Android. If it doesn't say Android, you need to select it and choose Android. So now go ahead and open the Gradle Scripts. So you can see that I opened it. And we have two versions of the build.gradle. We have the build.gradle project and the build.gradle module app. So I'm gonna choose the build.gradle project, and then here I'm gonna go inside the build script block, and here we have the repositories. I'm gonna add one line of code here, Maven, and then open and close the curly braces, URL inside the single tags, single quotes actually. We have the https://gitpack.io. This is necessary if you want to add the Parse SDK to your project. So now just go ahead and click on sync now. So here I'm gonna wait until the syncing process is finished. It's done. Now I'm gonna go back to the project view. Now let's go to the build.gradle module app, and then here scroll down, and you need to take a look at the dependencies block. So notice that here the compile SDK version, I'm targeting 29, and the target SDK version is 29. This version should be 27 or higher. This is very important. Now let's go to the dependencies block, and we're gonna add one line of code here. So here inside the dependencies block, let's just paste this line of code. implementation, and then inside the double quotes, com.github.parse-community dot parse. Make sure that the parse is written with a capital letter. The P should be in uppercase. Parse-SDK-Android : parse : so here after the parse : we need to enter the latest version of the Parse SDK. Now a question comes into the mind. What is the latest version of the Parse SDK and how we can find that latest version? So there is a way to do that. I'm gonna show you that here. So just go ahead and open your web browser. So then go ahead and enter this URL inside the search bar of your web browser. So let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, jetpack.io, and then here we have this git repo URL. So just enter this value here, parse-community/parse-sdk-android, and then click on look up. So when you click on look up here, it's going to show you the latest version of a Parse SDK. So I'm going to click on this get it. So now it is showing me the process of getting the latest version, or it is showing me the process of adding the Parse SDK to Android Studio. We have already done that, but notice the latest version is this one, 1.22.1. Okay, you can also take a look at the latest version here, Jetpack 1.22.1. So I'm going to go back to Android Studio, and instead of latest.version here, I'm going to say 1.22.1. Now click on sync now. So it's going to take some time, and make sure that you are connected to the internet. Sometimes students ask me whether we need an internet connection when we are using Android Studio or not. Yes, we do need internet connection, otherwise we won't be able to add the libraries to our project. So now it is showing me an error. So it says failed to resolve this value. Let's see what is the problem. So it says that it cannot use this version. Let's go back to the Jetpack URL. So let me copy this line of code, and let me delete this one, and I'm gonna paste it here again. Implementation com.github parse-community. So I'm gonna click on try again, and I am trying to add the Parse SDK to my project. So it cannot do that. Let's go back here, and it says that to get a Git project into your build, first add the Jetpack repository to your build file. So let's go ahead and copy. We have already pasted this code inside the build.gradle module app here. So it says we need to add it to the build.gradle module app. So this is the build.gradle module project. Okay. So in order to solve this problem, I'm just gonna copy this repositories block here, and I'm gonna go to the app, and notice that I am outside of the curly braces of the dependencies block. I'm gonna paste this code here again. So I'm gonna click on try again, so that maybe this will solve the problem. Notice that I am using trial and error to solve my programming problems. Okay, sometimes this happens. The only way to solve programming problems is by just trial and error. Don't assume that you can smoothly solve the problems and create your dream application like that. You will face problems, you will face errors, and that is fine. So notice that it is syncing the project successfully. So now there is no error in my project. In order to make sure that everything works fine, I'm just gonna go and click on build, and then here I can click on rebuild project to make sure that the Parse SDK is added to my project successfully and there is no error. If there is an error, it's gonna show you here inside the build output. So now that the app.gradle file, the build.gradle of the app module is set up correctly, Now we need to somehow connect our application to the back for app server. So remember, we created an application inside the back for app server. So now we need to connect our Android application that we created here inside the Android Studio to the back for app server. In order to do that, we need to connect our application to the internet. And in order to connect our application to the internet, we need to grant some permissions to our applications. So now I'm gonna open the project here and then go to the manifest, Androidmanifest.xml file. Double click on this file in order to open it. So here inside the manifest tag, notice that this is an XML code. And here we have the manifest tag. Inside the manifest tag, I'm gonna paste these two permissions. Users permission, android.permission.access network state, and another permission is the internet permission. So now I'm gonna go inside the application tag. So here it is, the application tag, and I'm gonna go here and paste some code here. So now that the app.gradle file, the build.gradle of the app module is set up correctly, now we need to somehow connect our application to the back for app server. So remember, we created an application inside the back for app server. So now we need to connect our Android application that we created here inside the Android Studio to the back for app server. In order to do that, we need to connect our application to the internet. And in order to connect our application to the internet, we need to grant some permissions to our applications. So now I'm gonna open the project here and then go to the manifest, Androidmanifest.xml file. Double click on this file in order to open it. So here inside the manifest tag, notice that this is an XML code. And here we have the manifest tag. Inside the manifest tag, I'm gonna paste these two permissions. Users permission, android.permission.access network state, and another permission is the internet permission. And then let's go inside the application tag and then paste these codes here. So we have the metadata, com.parse server URL. So here we're gonna add the URL later. Don't worry about these red texts here. So here we have the application ID and the client key. So now we need to get the server URL, the application ID, and the client key, and we need to add it to the strings.xml file that we have in our project. So here, when you open the project view, and then you should see this res folder, values, and then we have the strings.xml file. So just double click on it in order to open it. Now we need to add some values. So here inside the resources tag, I'm gonna paste these codes here. So the name is back for app server URL. So here it is, the URL parse API -back4app.com, and then we need to get the app ID and the client key from the back for app server. So now go ahead, open your web browser, and then go to the back for app website, and you need to click on your application there. So let's do that now. So here it is, my application on the back for app website, email verification app. So here you should see the server settings, okay? So when you log into the back for app website, you need to click on your app, the application that you created for this project, and then click on server settings. And now it's gonna show you the settings. So we have the core settings. I'm gonna click on it, settings. Now we should, it's gonna give us the app ID, app name, the Parse API server address, and all these other information. So the information that we need for our Android project, first of all, is this one, app ID. I'm gonna click on it. I'm gonna copy it. So when you click on it, it's gonna copy this app ID for you automatically. So I'm gonna go back to my Android Studio project, and inside this tag that says back for app ID, here, when it says paste your application ID here, I'm gonna paste this ID here. So it seems that it didn't copy the app ID for me. So I'm gonna select this one, and by the use of the command C, I'm gonna copy this app ID. So if you are using Windows, you need to hold down the control key and then tap on the letter C on your keyboard in order to copy this value. So I'm gonna paste this app ID here, and then I'm gonna go to the client key. I'm gonna click on it, copy it, and then for the client key tag, I'm gonna delete this, paste your client key here, and paste the client key here. So now everything is set up correctly, and if you go to the Android.manifest.xml file, you can see that there is no error here. So now it recognizes these string resources, back for app server URL, app ID, and client key. So now it is set up correctly. Now we need to do the final step in order to connect our application to the Parse server. So I know it's a long process to add the Parse SDK to our Android project, but we have to do it if you want to do anything with the Parse server. So I'm gonna open the project, the Android view, and then here open the app folder. So now you should see the Java folder. Inside the Java folder, we have this package, the first package that contains the main activity class. I'm gonna right click on this package, go to new. So now we need to create a new Java class that extends the application class. So let's name this class as app, and the superclass should be the application class. So just type in here application. Now I select this application class that is from the Android.app package. And that's it. Now go ahead and click on OK. So now inside the app class, I'm gonna override the onCreate method. And after the super.onCreate method, I'm gonna paste these lines of code in order to initialize the Parse server. It is very important that you add this code, otherwise the Parse server won't be added to your project, or you won't be able to initialize the Parse server, and you won't be able to connect your application to the Parse server in the back for app server. So now here you can see that it is showing us an error for this Parse class. It is in red color. So this means that the Parse server is not imported to our file properly. So I can click on this Parse here, and you can see the cursor here. I can hold down the Option key or the Alt key on your keyboard and then press on the Enter key on your keyboard. So it should show us the option to add or to import the Parse server to our file, but it doesn't show us that. So here at the top of the file, here where it's showing us this import code. So here I'm gonna type in here import com.parse with capital P semicolon. So there is still a problem with our code, with our Parse SDK. So I'm gonna open the Android view. Here go to Gradle Scripts and then build.gradle module app. So here you can see that we have this coroutines after this Parse SDK Android : so just delete these coroutines if it is coroutines actually in yours, and then choose Parse with lowercase p, and then click on try again in order to sync the project. So it seems that there is no problem here. Let's go to our app.java file, and now the Parse is imported to our file properly, and there is no error here. So we have initialized the Parse SDK here successfully without any problems. You can see that I called this initialize method. So as the first argument, we need to add the Parse configuration builder. So this, and then we have the application ID that we refer to the strings.xml file. We have the client key, we have the server URL, and finally we need to call the build method. So when it is done, now we need to go ahead and open the Androidmanifest.xml file, and we need to add one more attribute to this application tag. So before here, you can see that this is the tag of this application tag. And then after the theme attribute, I'm gonna type in here Android : name. So for the name attribute, choose the app.app. I am actually referring to this app class that we have inside the package that is specified here. This package that you can see here at the top inside the manifest tag. So now it is ready. Now it's time to test whether we have successfully added the Parse SDK to our project or not, or we need to test that whether we can connect to our app in the back4app server or not. We need to test it. Otherwise, later when we are adding more complex features to the application, we might get confused. So it's always important that you test the library that you have added to your project, so there will be no problem in the future. Okay, so let's go here inside the main activity class. Here, this is a good place inside the onCreate method to test whether we can connect to the Parse server or not. Not just the Parse server, but any other servers. So every time we use the Parse server, and every time the user downloads our application and installs the application on his or her device, we can get the information of the installation. We can be notified about that installation and save that data to our database. So inside the onCreate method of the main activity, I'm gonna paste this line of code. Parse installation.get current installation.save in background. Okay, so now that we added this code here to the onCreate method, and as you may know, onCreate is one of the Android lifecycle methods, so it will be executed as soon as the user runs the application. Let's go ahead and run the application. So make sure that you created a virtual device. Okay, if you have not created a virtual device, go ahead and create it. The process is simple. You can go to the AVD manager. You can see the icon here, and then you can simply go ahead and create virtual device, and you can choose the phone. Make sure the category is phone. Choose a specific device based on its size, resolution, density, whatever you want, and then click on next. So here for the system image, so the latest version of Android SDK, the Android operating system is Android Q. So the API level is 29. I suggest that you use the latest version. And we also have the x86 images or other images. So I have chosen the Q, and then click on next. Choose a name for your AVD, and then don't worry about the other settings and click on finish. So I'm gonna click on cancel. So when you do that, your virtual device will be added here. And here there is a section that allows you to choose a specific device, a specific virtual device that you have. So currently I have the 4-inch phone. I'm gonna change it to Pixel XL API 29. So now it's gonna run the application on this virtual device. I'm gonna click on run. So here it is, my app running on this virtual device. So now we need to go ahead and go to the web browser and to the back4app server and our application in order to make sure that this data is saved there or not. So let's do that now. So here, when you go to the back4app, and then here we should go to the My Apps. Just click on the My Apps tab, and then click on your project that you have here. I have the email verification app. Click on Dashboard, and you should see the data here. So now we have the database, the core, the API reference. You can see the installation, the role, user, connections, and other information. But notice that for the installation, I have 2 installations. So if you remember, I have run the application on 2 different devices, a 4-inch device and the other device. So now it says that there are 2 installations, and here are the information. You can see the object ID and the app name, and all of this information for this app that has been installed on 2 different devices. So this means that we have successfully added the Parse SDK to our project, and now we can connect to the Bag4 app. So now we can go ahead and implement the email verification. So here again, we need to go ahead and click on server settings, and then we need to find verification emails. This part, verification emails, send automatic emails. Click on settings. So here you can see that it is showing us the reply to address no-reply@bag4app.com. Here we can specify a display name. So let's say the display name is, I'm gonna enter my own name, Morteza Kordi, and the verification email. So I'm gonna check this checkbox that says verify user email. So this is very important. Make sure that you check this checkbox, and verification email subject. So here it's gonna say that please verify your email for the app name. So this is the value, and verification email body. And then here we have the password reset email. So here are the messages that it will show to the user in order to verify the user's email. And I'm gonna click on save. When it is saved, this part is done. So when this part is done, then click on my apps, and then here choose the email verification app, click on dashboard. So now we are able to take a look at the core. Okay, so when you click on server settings here, you will be able to change the settings if you want. So I'm going to click on verification email settings and make sure that this checkbox is checked, verify user emails, and then you can go to the core, and here you can take a look at your database and modify it if you like. So go back to Android Studio, and then here we need to design our layout. So I'm gonna delete this hello world text view, and I'm gonna add some edit text so we can allow the user to enter username, email, username, password. So I'm gonna add one here, another one for the username, another one for the password. So we have a specific edit text for the password here. I'm gonna add that here. Okay, so let's add the constraints to the top, to the right, to the left. So the constraints layout is fairly easy. So here, and a constraint to the left, and finally for the password, one to the right, one to the bottom of this username edit text, another one to the left of the screen. So let's just select the first edit text, and here we have the attributes at the right sidebar. You can see the attributes, so I'm gonna click on it. So first let's change the ID. Change the ID to EDT email, and here I'm gonna check this checkbox that says don't ask during this session, update all usage of edit text as well. I'm gonna click on yes. So the ID is EDT email, and let's take a look at the other attributes. So for the text, let's delete this value name, and for the hint, just type in here, please enter your email. Okay, so this is the hint of this edit text. Select the second edit text. For the ID, choose EDT username, and then for the text, delete this value name. For the hint attribute, just type in here, please enter your username. And finally for the password, so again ID should be changed to EDT password, and for the hint, let's say please enter your password. Okay, So now that we have these edit texts here, I'm gonna add a button. So the button here, I'm gonna select the buttons and I'm gonna add a button here. So I'm gonna create a constraint here, right, left, and for the ID, let's change it to btn sign up, and for the text, let's say sign up. Okay, so let's also add a value for the Onclick attribute. Let's say sign up is pressed. So I'm gonna copy this value. Make sure to copy this value here. We need to go to the main activity class, and here inside the main activity class, I'm gonna say public void. It's very important that you define this method as public. Otherwise, this method won't be recognized by Android Studio, and we won't be able to listen to the clicks of that button. So sign up is pressed, a pair of parentheses. We need to add a parameter. Let's name the parameter to be btn view. So this is the button that is clicked. So we can have the button that is clicked from this method, and then here whatever code we add here will be executed when the btn sign up is pressed. So let's test this feature. Let's create a toast.make text context this. The message is sign up pressed, comma length short dot show. Let's go ahead and run the program and make sure that everything works correctly. So let's go open the emulator and let's see. I'm gonna tap on this sign up button. Now it says sign up pressed, so it is working correctly. Okay, so when this sign up is pressed button is tapped, I'm gonna sign up the user. So I'm gonna paste some lines of code inside the sign up is pressed method. So I have copied these codes from the Back4App documentation guide for the Android SDK. So here are the codes. First, we don't need these codes here, these tags. I'm just gonna delete them. But we have this try block and this catch block, okay? So we are going to sign up the parse user. We have the parse user. So at the top, you should see that it has added the parse exception, parse user, and sign up callback. It has added these imports for me automatically. And here it is trying to create a new parse user, user.set username. So we are going to get the username from the edt username. In order to do that, we need to define the edit text inside our main activity. So I'm going to say private edit text, and the first one is going to be edt email, comma edt username, and edt password. So edt password, semicolon, and finally we also have, so we don't have to create a variable for the button because we have this method here. So now that I have actually declared these variables, I need to go inside the onCreate method and initialize them. So for the edt email, find view by id r.id.edt email. So there are some libraries that will simplify this process of adding or connecting the variable to the UI stuff. For example, the butter knife library will simplify this task for you. So you can use that library. Edt username, find view by id r.id.edt username, and finally edt password, find view by id r.id.edt password. That's it, semicolon. Now that we have defined these variables and initialized them, now I can go ahead and for the user username of the parse user, I'm going to say edt username.get text dot toString, and for the password I'm gonna say edt password dot get text dot toString. So and finally for the email I'm gonna say edt email dot get text dot toString. Now it's gonna sign up the user in the background. So we have a sign up callback. When the user is signed up in the background, we're going to have a callback. So it's gonna execute the done method. If there is no error, here we have this if else statement. If there is no error, or the exception is equal to null or nothing, so this means there is no error, then we are going to log out the user and we are going to show an alert. So here we have this alert displayer method. We haven't created this method yet. That's why it is in red color. We're gonna create it in a moment. So now it says account created successfully. Please verify your email before login. So the final argument is false, and else. So else means that there is an error in the sign up process. So it's gonna say parse user.logout, alert displayer, error account creation failed, account could not be created. And it's gonna show the message, and finally the final argument is true. So let's see, let's go ahead and create the alert displayer. And finally we have the catch block after this try block. So if anything goes wrong inside the try block, it's gonna execute this catch block and it's gonna catch the error, so the application won't crash. Now let's go inside the main activity class. So by clicking on this ending curly brace, I can identify which one is the ending curly brace, which one is the ending curly brace of this main activity class. So inside this class, I'm gonna add the alert displayer method. So again, I copied this method from the back for app documentation guide, alert displayer, and I paste it here. So we need to import the alert dialog. So I can just click on this alert dialog. The cursor is here. Hold down the option, press on enter key on your keyboard, so that it's gonna import the class for us. So here we have the alert dialog from the Android.x.appcompat.app, and we have the alert dialog from the Android.app package. So I'm gonna choose this one from the Android.x.appcompat.app, so it will be compatible with the older versions. So I'm gonna choose this one. So now there is no error here. And here for the context, let's change it to main activity .this. And here, so it's gonna show us this alert title message. The positive button, text will be okay. So when the user taps on the OK button, we have this Onclick, the callback, and we are going to cancel the dialog. And if there is no error, we are going to be transitioned to the sign up activity. From the sign up activity, we are going to be transitioned to the login activity. So the user can enter the username and password and make sure that everything is correct. So it's going to add the flags, flag activity clear task, and the flag activity new task. So add these flags to this intent and then start the activity intent. So if you have no idea about these flags, flag activity clear task and the flag activity new task, you can go ahead and open the web browser and search for these flags. So let me show you how you can do that. So here I opened my Google Chrome, my web browser, and I searched for one of these flags, flag activity.clear task. So here it is showing me a link from the Stack Overflow. So by clicking on this link, we can get some information about this flag. So it says there is a difference between the two snippets. So you can take a look at the question, and you can see that the flag activity clear task is here. So it's going to give you an answer, and it says that you can see you can read about the activity and learn more about these flags that are used. So it's very important that you make yourself familiar with the documentation, with Stack Overflow, so you have a clear idea about these flags that are used. But let's go back to our Android Studio. So these flags are used, and then it's gonna start the activity intent. And finally, after that, then we have the alert dialog. OK, builder.create, OK.show. Finally, it is going to create the alert dialog, and it's going to assign it to this OK variable, and it's going to call the show method on this OK. So the alert dialog will be shown to the user. Now we need to change something here. For this intent, we don't have the sign up activity, we actually have the main activity. And we don't have the login activity, we need to create it. So I'm gonna put the cursor here inside the login activity, hold down the Option or Alt key, and then press on Enter key. So here it is showing us an option to create the class login activity. We need to have the activity. So let's just go ahead, open the Android view, the first package, right click here, and then new activity, and then let's create an empty activity. So as the name of the activity, just type in here login activity, and then you can see the layout name, the package name, the source language is Java. So now I'm gonna click on finish. So the login activity is created. Now there is no error here because we are going to transition to the login activity when the user signs up. So now let's go ahead and run the application and see whether this feature works or not. So here the application is running. I'm gonna enter my email. And then we need to enter a username and a password. So something like this. And then let's go ahead and sign up to this application. So now it says sign up pressed, and now it is showing us this alert dialog. Account created successfully. Please verify your email before login. Okay, so it's gonna transition to this login activity here. We haven't still added any UI elements to this activity, but first we need to actually verify our email, otherwise we won't be able to log in. So let's do that. So go to your email, whatever email you have entered, you need to go to that email and then verify, and then you can go back here, and then we're gonna add the elements to the login page and try to log in. But if you don't verify your email, it's not gonna work. So as you can see here, I have verified my email. Now it says successfully verified your email. I can go back to my application. So now go ahead and open the activity underline main.xml. So we don't have to do anything with the activity underline main.xml. We need to go to the activity underline login.xml file. So now we need to add two edit texts. So I'm going to add the plain text here. This is for the email of the user, and a password edit text. So this is for the password of the user. So let's add the constraints to the right, to the left, this one, right to the left. And finally, let's add a button here so we can allow the user to log into the application. So this one here, this one right, this one left. Done. So for this one, let's say edt underline login, edt underline login underline email. And for the text attribute, delete this one. Hint will be please enter your email. And for the second one will be edt password, or let's say edt login password, because I don't want to have any conflicting with the other activities, edit login password, and I'm gonna add a hint here. Please enter your password. So, and button, so the button will be btn login and the text will be login. Okay, so now let's go to the login activity. Let's declare the edit text here. Edit text, edit login email, comma, edit login password, semicolon. Let's go and initialize them. Edit login email, edit login email, and edit login password. So now let's go ahead and add an attribute to this button for the Onclick method. So let's say login pressed. Login is pressed. I'm just gonna copy this value, login activity, public, void, the name of the method, view, and then let's give it a name. So it is going to be btn view. So whenever the login button is pressed, this method will be executed. So now let's go ahead and log in the user. So before we continue, let's change this edit login email to edit login username. In order to allow the user to log in, we just need to get the user and the password. So let's go back to the activity login XML file and select this edit text and change the ID to edit login username instead of email. And here for the hint, let's say please enter your username. And then let's go back to the login activity. Let's change the name of this variable to username, and here a username. Okay, so now inside of this login is pressed, I'm gonna just paste the login code. So it is going to log in the user in the background. We need to pass the username here, edit username, and edit password, or edit login password. And then we have the login callback, so we will be notified after this process is finished, the process of logging the user. So the done method is here. If the parse user is not equal to null, this means that we already have a parse user, and then we have another if statement. If the parse user dot get boolean email verified, so if the value of this key email verified is true, then the user is allowed to log in. So we need to also add the alert displayer here. But before that, I'm gonna go back to the parse database because I want to show you about this email verified attribute. So here, make sure that the core is selected. And then here under this database browser, we have this user, this section named as user. So when you click on it, you should see that a new user is added here. And take a look at these keys here. We have one key named as email verified. If this value is true, this means that the user has verified his or her email. So mine is true because I have verified my email. So the value of this key is true. So if you go back to your Android Studio, here we are asking if the parse user that gets boolean email verified is true. If this key, the value of this key is true, then we are going to show an alert and say login successful, welcome, and then we are going to add the username of the user. So we can just get the username here from the edt login username dot get text dot toString. Okay, so we don't have to call the toString here because this plus quotes will automatically turn it into a string value, but it's a good programming practice to call this toString on the get text. And then we have the exclamation mark, and finally we have the false as the final argument. And then we have the else block. So this else block means that the user has not verified the email. So we are going to log out the user in that case, and then we are going to show this alert displayer and say that please verify your email first. And then finally this else block is for this if parse user is not equal to null. So if the parse user is equal to null, this means that there is the user has not actually signed up. So we are going to log out the parse user first, and then we are going to say login fail, please retry, or maybe there has been some problem with the parse user. So that's it. Now the only thing we need is the alert displayer method. So I'm gonna go here inside the main activity, and I'm gonna copy this method, and I'm gonna put it inside the login activity. Okay, so inside the login activity, for the context, we need to use the login activity.this, and also here. So now I think everything is fine without any problem. So let's see what is the problem with this one. As you can see, there is a problem inside the login is pressed method. So this problem might be a problem with the curly braces. Maybe we have not put a curly brace here. Let me add a new ending curly brace here. So now there is no problem with that. Okay, for this login in background, here we are getting the username, right? We need to say edt login username dot get text dot toString, and we need to do the same for this one, edt login password dot get text dot toString. So now the problem is solved. Okay, so it's very important that you get the string of this edit text, otherwise we will get a value of type editable, and editable is different from string. So the problem is solved. So now let's go to the Androidmanifest.xml file, and let's change the launcher activity to be the login activity, because now I am sure that the user has signed up and verified the email. Let's change the launcher activity to be the login activity, and so that we can test the login code. So I'm gonna cut these 2 lines of code for the main activity, and here you should see the code for this activity inside the application, the login activity. Inside the login activity, I'm gonna paste these codes. The main, the name is main, and the launcher. So I'm gonna run the program. So now when the application runs, the first activity that will be appeared will be the login activity. So here it says default activity not found. Let me click on build, rebuild project first. So it's a manifest merger failed with multiple errors. So let's see what is the error. So it seems that it has not found the main activity. So you can see that I forgot to delete to put this intent filter. So I'm gonna cut this intent filter and put it here inside the login activity, and I'm gonna put these 2 codes inside the intent filter. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run the program. And now it should show us the login activity as the launcher or main activity. So now we can enter the username. So I entered Mory and the username is here. Let's click on login. Now it should show us the alert dialog, login successful, welcome Mory. Okay. So this is how you implement the email verification in Android and Java using the Parse server. So if you're using the Kotlin programming language, the process is the same, but the language is different. So hopefully that makes sense. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. So if you have any other questions, please let me know. Please post some comments below this video, and I will be answering your questions. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.